6:15.
I got it.
Take 6:20 maybe.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Is it time for another massage? Yes? You guys like that? Stand. Bismillah. This time you gotta do the karate chop massage. These, turn to your right, give someone a massage, quick. Come on, everybody, up, 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 up. Allahu Akbar. Extremist Muslims, left and right, MashaAllah. To the left, switch. MashaAllah. All these Muslims with knives. You guys can sit now, inshallah. Okay, I'm going to keep this short, inshallah. If you behave, I'll keep it short. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Okay, so this talk is about being addicted or like trapped with doubts. Trapped in your doubts about Islam, basically. So, throughout the day, we've been speaking about the two categories, classifications of ailments of the heart, because it all goes back to the heart, right? This is the captain and the king and the driver and the pilot of all of your behaviors. The limbs are just the soldiers, they can't disobey the king, right? And so, the two categories were doubts and desires. Doubts, shubuhat, and desires, shahawat. What we need to understand, inshallah, is that these are not exactly two separate categories that have nothing to do with each other. Whereas in reality, they feed each other. So if you have a doubt about Allah, it's going to make it so much easier for you to just listen to your desires and not listen to Allah, right? And likewise, if you have a desire that's just really getting a grip on you, moving towards an addiction, that will cause you after a while to begin to doubt the incorrectness of that desire that you want to obey. So they feed each other. Doubts feed desires, and desires feed doubts, and it becomes such a dangerous loop. And the reason for that, by the way, why usually it starts, by the way, desires, then it leads to doubts. Do you know why it's usually like that? Because the heart, your desires, right? Versus the mind, your doubts, how you understand things. And by the mind, we also mean the spiritual mind, the behavioral mind. We don't necessarily mean the brain. But let's just keep it simple. The heart is so sensitive that it weakens first. So it gives in to the desires, right? Whereas the brain is not as sensitive, and so it gets corrupted next. Alright? And so what happens is you usually give in to the desire first, and then once you're actually doing something that you believe is wrong, then after a while you give in to believing that it's wrong and you just not forget it. Khalas, not wrong. And that's why it's reported that some of the early Muslims, some attribute this to Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, though I haven't been able to find the attribution itself, trace it back, but it's a beautiful concept, that they used to advise people and say, you will either do what you believe is right, like resist your desires already, do what you believe is right, or else you will start believing that what you do is right. Make sense? You're going to start aligning yourself with your convictions, what you believe is right, or else you're going to start doing, or you're going to start believing, you're going to convince yourself that what you're doing, what you've surrendered to doing, what you failed at escaping, that it's alright. In other words, you're going to resist your desires, or else you're going to start having doubts. You know why you're going to have doubts, by the way? Because the human being, none of us like to wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and say, I'm a monster. I'm a bad person. Nobody likes to do that. And so what we do is, we have this amazing talent that, as human beings, to convince ourselves that what we're doing is not so bad. is not so wrong. We have a whole bunch of different ways to give ourselves sedatives, religious sedatives, to sedate ourselves and put our guilt and our consciousness or our conscience away and put it to sleep, sedate it so you feel better. And look at how far this talent can get you. That people have, just to give in to their desires, have convinced themselves of the most ridiculous thing in the universe, and that is what? That Allah does not exist. Because it's convenient that He not exist, right? There's no accountability for anything that I do. You see, atheism is not the product of science, the science of the modern world, as much as it is a product of the luxuries of the modern world. You understand? We live better off now than ever before, and so we put together some pseudo-philosophy, some pseudo-science to say, yeah, don't worry about that stuff. Okay? That's the danger of it, by the way. Not to say that like doubts are more dangerous than desires, and they're interconnected. It's a slippery slope. That's the importance of the subject of addictions. I know a young man who memorized 22 juz of the Quran. And his parents called me up and his brother, and he had left Islam. And I deal with tons of these cases and don't think this is not common. According to Pew Research, 23% of first generation, meaning not the immigrants, the first generation born here, no longer self-identify as Muslims. That means if these numbers are close to being right, 1/3 of our kids will not be Muslim. We need to not sound alarmist, but be extremely serious about this subject. So long story short, I've dealt with so many of these cases that his father's telling me it's because there's this ayah in the Quran that caused him some doubt and he doesn't really believe because it's scientifically impossible that Nuh alayhi salam's flood actually covered the whole earth and some ridiculous thing like that, right? Okay. I said, can I please speak to his brothers and sisters? I knew there's more to the story. I spoke to his brother and I asked him the story. Here it is, okay? I'll just spare you the background. He got out of college, got a very admirable position as a corporate accountant in the center of New York City, something like that, right? And so he has to climb this ladder. And if you climb this ladder, you have to live a certain lifestyle. You have to attend certain parties, dress certain things, drink certain things. They dance with your wife and you dance with their... So he asked his wife to take off hijab. Okay? She refused. It caused a rift between them because she's getting in the way of his career. And so she left the house. His life began to fall apart. And that's when he left Islam. You see the guilt of, oh man, I'm doing all this and I've ruined this and I've ruined that. And how do you get past this? You hear some ridiculous doubt about the Quran not being true. That's perfect. It's so convenient for me to say, oh, there is no God. There is no haram. There is no hellfire. You understand? It's convenient. The doubt becomes convenient. And this is extremely important for us to understand. If a sister is facing so much pressure, she has such a desire just to fit in, and hijab is in her way, and it's just too difficult for her. The desire to please people because of social media, because of human tendency, all of that combined, it's complicated. But the hijab is just like the biggest problem in her life right now. The moment she hears some person that has no idea what they're talking about say the Quran says nothing about hijab, hijab is actually a Jewish, there are people that say these things, a Jewish tradition that Muslims just started wearing she'll jump on it. Why is she going to jump on it? Because it just makes all her problems go away. It was a desire to get out of the hot seat. And so, because I don't have time to give my lecture, keep that in mind, that your nearness to Allah, you devoting yourself to Allah's desires, not your desires, right? Meaning what Allah wants from you, not what you want from yourself. This is the safest way to save your faith. Like once you get to know Allah, you fall head over heels in love with Him. You cannot resist but adore Him. You'll sacrifice anything to please Him. And it becomes so easy for you. And it continues getting easier, by the way. Like when you do what's right, doing what's right becomes easy, and you start being more able to recognize the right things to do. You know, there are many examples of this, and I'll mention to you one or two in the Quran. But Allah Azza wa Jal, when He spoke about how Banu Israel, how they moved away from the revelation. Listen to what Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah An-Nisa. He says, وَلَوْ أَنَّا كَتَبْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ أَنِ اقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ أَوْ اخْرُجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِكُمْ مَا فَعَلُوهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ مِّنْهُمْ. Had we told them, kill yourselves. He didn't tell them. Had we told them, kill yourselves, or walk away from your homes, nobody would have done it except a select few. وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ فَعَلُوا مَا يُعَظُونَ بِهِ لَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُمْ وَأَشَدَّ تَثْبِيتًا. And had they just done what they were commanded to do, it would have been better for them, listen, and a firmer position, meaning you would have had a firmer position on faith if you would have done what your faith said. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal says, استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَحُولُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَقَلْبِهِ وَأَنَّهُ إِلَيْهِ تُحْشَرُونَ. Respond to Allah and His Messenger. Don't take this religion lightly. One of our biggest problems as Muslims is that we don't realize that our religion to us is culture. It is a cultural identity, not a religious identity. And that is why when the culture changes, it's not that serious. We'll adapt with the culture. We'll redefine Islam. We'll be selective in our reading of the Quran and the Sunnah to match the dominant culture. Allah is saying, respond when Allah is calling you to that which gives you life. Life to your heart, life to your akhirah, life on earth. You won't be oppressed anymore and abused in all the nations. Invite you to that which gives you life. He says, and know that Allah comes between a person and his heart. Allah intervenes. He can stop your heart from doubting. He can also stop your heart from believing. But He will not do so unfairly, and that's why He begins by saying, you just respond, just do your part, and you will become unbreakable. Don't do your part, and you will become a non-factor. You cannot keep yourself Muslim. I can keep you Muslim. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what He's telling us. And it's unbelievable how history repeats itself. Like, one of the biggest tricks of shaitan, my brothers and sisters, because again, I just have to close, is to not see the Quran as some book about a different time and a different place, addressing a different audience. That's, by the way, throughout the centuries, like scholars have written about this. It's a steady trick of shaitan to make the Quran seem unfamiliar, seem irrelevant. Listen to the story of the Quran, okay? Listen to the story of the Quran. This is the story of Qarun, okay? The story of the man that had everything we would all desire. Riches and fame and power and fans and everything. Allah Azza wa Jal says, إِذْ خَرَجَ عَلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فِي زِينَتِهِ. He walked out on his people dressed up, like on a good day. Like Qarun on Eid, not just Qarun in a limo, Qarun on Eid. Like just in all of his fame, just flexing, boasting, all of that. Allah Azza wa Jal says, the people that desire the life of this world, they got confused when they saw all that. They got confused. And they said what? They said, يَا لَيْتَ لَنَا مِثْلَ مَا أُوتِيَ قَارُونَ إِنَّهُ ذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. We wish we had what Qarun had. He's so fortunate. ذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ means he's so lucky. He's so lucky. There's an ayah there that I'm going to skip for a reason. I'm going to continue the story. Allah Azza wa Jal says, فَخَسَفْنَا بِهِ وَبِدَارِهِ الْأَرْضِ. We caused him and his whole palace to get swallowed by the earth. Imagine, it's like a landslide or like an implode. The earth swallowed him up. Cracked and just, subhanAllah. Huge disaster. What happened? Qarun's dead. He's gone. Him and all his treasures are gone. Allah Azza wa Jal says what? وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ تَمَنَّوْا مَكَانَهُ بِالْأَمْسِ وَيْكَأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ. Those that wished they were in his shoes yesterday said, whoa. Way is kind of like whoa. But a sad whoa, like oh. Way, it's as if Allah gives and takes from people and to people whatever He wants. Like getting dunya is not really necessarily a blessing. And it being taken away from you is not necessarily a blessing. They're all just tests. Clarity finally came for them, right? He's not lucky. Allah didn't love him because He gave him. Nor does Allah hate you for holding out on you as we perceive it. So he says, they say that it's as if Allah just does this as He pleases. وَكَأَنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Whoa, the disbeliever really will never prosper. Do you realize what just happened there? They dreamed of being someone that wasn't a believer. Don't we do that sometimes? You wish you could have this life or that life and not feel like life's kind of prison because you're stuck on some rules and your religion restricts you. And by the way, it doesn't really restrict you, it's just a misperception. But like this actress or this sports fan or this musician or this, that, and the third, you're dreaming to be someone who disbelieves in Allah on the last day? The ayah I skipped was what? And with it I close. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ. And those that were given knowledge and faith said, ثَوَابُ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ لِمَنْ آمَنَ. The reward of Allah is better for those that believe. And only those who are patient, meaning on their beliefs, meaning on against their desires, doing what Allah desires, that's belief, that's faith. Those who believe and are patient, these are a people that truly have a good share. So your key out of this is knowledge. But knowledge is not facts. Abu Sulaiman al-Darani rahimahullah, he said, and this is advice I'll just leave you with here and I'm done. One sentence. They asked him, بِمَا تُنَالُ مَعْرِفَةُ اللَّهِ. How can I develop knowledge of God, like really know Him, like have some transparency between me and Him, feel His closeness, feel His greatness, trust in Him, have this confidence, fall in love. How? He said, what do you think he would say? Like studying the Quran or something, right? They said, how does someone get to know God? قَالَ بِطَاعَتِهِ. He said, by obeying Him. And then they asked him, وَبِمَا تُنَالُ طَاعَتُهُ. How do we get ourselves to obey Him? قَالَ بِهِ. He said, through Him. So you go to God to ask Him to help you to obey Him, and when you obey Him, you get to know Him. Then you get to know Him, you're going to obey Him some more. Then you're going to know Him a little deeper, and it's going to keep coming. And so I love you all for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is my last lecture. I'll say to you what the Prophet ﷺ said to Mu'adh. He said, "O Mu'adh, I love you, so don't stop saying at the back end of every prayer, Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadik." Oh Allah, through you I'm asking to obey you. Oh Allah, help me remember you and thank you and worship you, devote to you with excellence. Oh Allah, help me remember you and thank you and devote to you with excellence. Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. Jazakallah khayran everybody. Wa sallallahu sallam wa baraka nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
Allahu Akbar. Jazakallah khair to Sheikh for that beautiful thing. May we all strive to become better slaves of Allah, inshallah. The next subject that's coming is a very difficult subject for us, and it's something that we need to discuss as a group and as a people. But we do feel that there should be an age restriction on it, and so parents